Welcome to my first ever, your first ever Tuesday Talk with Red. I hope the name says it all. It's going to be every Tuesday. It's going to be a talk, and it's going to be with Red. And so that's been my nickname for years. Clearly, I'm a huge fan of the red. It's kind of everywhere. But yes, I hope this will be your first Tuesday, but the first of many with me. Clearly, episode 1 indicates that there's going to be an episode 2 and so on and so forth. I actually have 52 episodes already kind of lined out. This is crazy, guys. I'm going to talk about how I kind of wound up here on this episode, and it's still crazy and still makes me laugh quite a bit when I focus too much on it. But that's okay. So I titled this episode, "What in the World is she up to now?" Because anyone on here who I think has known me for any length of time would probably agree that I've always been an open book. I've never really beat around the bush about anything. I'm very open and honest with probably more so my inner circle of folks than not, but I'm also very honest about my story and my journey with people that maybe I've just met for, a couple times that have asked, can you talk a little bit more about that? I've absolutely been willing to be open. And so I count it a privilege to be able to share my story with people. So the fact that I'm here doing this now, like I said, I'm sure it won't shock anybody. There may be moments in episodes where I talk about things that might shock some of you, because there are things that a majority of the people don't know. But it's okay. It's time to start talking about some of these things. So how I kind of wound up here. I've shared my story through the years with lots of different pockets of people. In youth group, when I helped teach youth group for years, or taught college group for years, shared my story there. Women in Bible studies that have sat right here in my living room. You're looking at me in my living room. My couch is right there. My TV's right there. Like, this has always been, I've actually had some women say that this has been a very safe space for them, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's why I'm kind of inviting you guys into my living room. But I've had opportunities throughout the years in those different pockets to be able to share different snippets of it. And in 2010, I was asked to come and speak at a local women's conference. A couple of churches had gotten together, and they were having a women's conference on a Saturday, and asked if I would come and speak. When my children were younger, I did what all the really cool moms do at the time, and I had a blog spot. And I'm very thankful for it, because I was able to journal a lot of what was going on in our life at that time, doing family nights, and pull all that together and make them some booklets for them to have in their later years, to just kind of have some of those childhood memories really fleshed out for them to look back on. But during that time, I wrote a blog called Weeds, which I will talk about in a later episode. I'll get into a little bit more detail about that. And that was the premise of how I was going to be speaking at this conference. And I can remember standing in the middle of that room, surrounded by all these women, and I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I mean, not as a career, because, mama's still got to pay the bills and put some food on the table. So not like to make money, but this is what I've been supposed to be doing. And I Jonah'd that heifer. I literally shut it down. I admitted it to a couple of people, but then I shut it down and just continued on my merry way. I was a new mom. I had 2 young children. I had a career that I was working on climbing the corporate ladder to. I just did not have the bandwidth or capacity for something like that. So I Jonah'd that and just, here we go. So, lots of things have happened since then in my life that kind of made me thankful this wasn't what I was doing, because I had some church hurt. I had some transitions in life. I got a divorce. Whew, that's a whole episode in and of itself. And so fast forward to January 5th of this year, pre-pandemic. So everybody's still, elbow to elbow places. And I entered into a time of fasting. I knew something had to change. I had been transitioning in my career chapters. I had gone into chapter 2. I felt like it was time to move into a chapter 3, which I hope was going to be my final chapter career-wise. And I knew something had to change. And so I entered into a time of fasting and prayer. Now, let me lay this out there for just a second. If you're not a believer, that is okay. This is a completely safe space for believers and non-believers. If you're a believer, you understand the power that is in fasting and prayer. I entered into that time. I left it open-ended. I did not say I'm going to fast for a week or 40 days or whatever. I just entered in and said, this is it. Like, I am holding on until I have an answer. For those of you that think it's all poppycock and hogwash, look at it as a time of pushing everything else aside. You have something that you need to deal with, pushing everything else aside and just putting all of your intention and focus onto it. Okay? So that's what I did. Early on, I knew that breakthrough was coming. I knew that I was supposed to be sitting in an expectant way and that a breakthrough was coming. Now, me in my ever climbing wisdom just knew that it was this job situation, the financial situation, like that's what this had to be about, right? I was quickly proven wrong. 3 weeks later, I knew that I was being taken back to that time in 2010. Y'all, that's 10 years. How thick-headed am I? That is 10 years prior that I went back to saying, this is it. This is what you were supposed to have been doing this whole time. But again, Nineveh, I admitted it to a couple of close friends and continued just working through this whole process. I've spent all this time still thinking it was a career situation. Well, during that time, I met with a very wise woman over coffee, and I had to share my entire story from start to finish with her. It was a couple hours. It was a while. And during this conversation, I brought up this 2010 business, what I knew I was supposed to be doing. And she looked at me with the intention like I have not seen in anybody's eyes look at me in a really long time. And she said, you are meant to be sharing that story. I know, like women. No, she said, women and men alike need to hear what you have to say. And I just lost it. I was thinking there's just absolutely no way. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, there's no avenues for that. There's no anything like that. And then, hello, COVID. Everything shuts down. We're all doing everything virtual, which I was virtual in my career before it was cool to be virtual in my career. But people are playing games on across Zoom, and people are having baby showers across Zoom. Like, this is the new norm, right? Still, I just kind of tucked it away. Admitted it to some close friends and kind of tucked it away. But then, fast forward to November 9th. I was having my morning Bible study, and I've been doing the one-year Bible study, and I had picked up a different translation when I started this study that I had gifted myself when I was 1 year free from codependency and control, which that's a whole nother episode. But anyway, and so I picked that up and I was like, I'm going to use this one to do this study through. And it had me in Joel 2, which I was pumped. because if you've known me any length of time, you know Joel 2:25 is my life verse, and I will restore unto you the years the locusts have eaten. I have died on that mountain for 24 years. 24 plus probably. Hang on. Yeah, I have died on that mountain for years. I have it tattooed on my shoulder. Like, it is me. I ooze it. You could ask my kids when they were knee-high to a grasshopper, and they would tell you Joel 2:25. So we're in Joel. I'm like, yes, flipping through. And I read it in this translation, and it says, I will give you back what has been stolen. Now, that's the exact same as really what the locust version translation said, because what had happened was locusts had come through and just ravished the land and destroyed it. And this was God saying, I will give you back what's been ravished. So when I saw it this way, I stopped in my tracks for a minute and I started thinking of it in a different way. I kind of flipped that script of, what's really been stolen from me? What have I handed over? And I began to journal about this. I'm like, okay, let's read on. What came next? I've heard it before, I've read it before, but I've never read it in the flow context of my life verse. And it said, and then, so once I have restored, once I have given you back what's been stolen, and then I will pour out my Spirit. Y'all, I pushed that Bible away. I threw the pens, I threw the highlighters, and I just sat there. And I thought, I cannot escape this. I texted my girls, my ladies, and I said, I just pushed my Bible away. Like, I couldn't even sit in the presence of what was going on, and I pushed it away, and I knew something had changed. So it's 7:30 in the morning. I checked my phone after I, come to grips with all of this. I checked my phone and I have a message from a sweet friend who lives in Oklahoma, and she sent me a video and she was like, this reminds me of you. And I watched it and I'm sitting here going, I know what's coming. I know what's coming. I don't want to think about it. Let's just turn this around like we have all these years. And I had an interview that afternoon. Of course, virtually, because everything's virtual. I get on this Zoom interview, and it's probably one of the best interviews I've ever participated in, not for the job itself, not for the contract work itself, but it was just great conversation. So we get toward the end of the interview, and he says, can I take my HR hat off for just a second? He's like, because I feel like I need to tell you something. He was like, I have been doing this for 13 years. He said, and I have never seen someone be able to convey across a video screen the energy and the persona that you have just delivered to me. Now, I know that's probably not true across everything, but I knew. Like, I knew that I knew that I knew. This is the new way of life with COVID. Everything is virtual. And it's a way to do what I know I'm supposed to have been doing. So that night I come into the living room, I cook supper, I come in the living room, the kids and I are watching TV, laughing, they're playing with the dogs or whatever, and I'm just writing. Like, I'm just writing episode after episode after episode of the things that I know it's time to flip the script on. And so I just stew on it all night long. I barely sleep that night. I stew on it all night long. The next day I'm in the car with the kids. And I was like, hey, I've got, y'all want to hear a secret? A God secret? And Belle was like, you're pregnant. I'm like, oh my goodness. No, no. So I proceed to kind of give a quick synopsis, and I say these words, and they're still laughable, and I laughed at it. And I said, so I'm starting a YouTube channel. And my daughter's like, period, Mom. She's like, I have seen this for you for longer than I think you've been able to. And she just begins to just confirm what I already knew. While I sit in the front seat and laugh. Fast forward 4 or 5 days, and I head over to my girlfriend's house for a night with them, and they're like, okay, what's up? And so I proceed to tell them. And they both are like, confirmation after confirmation. One of my girlfriends sat there the whole time. Every time I would say the next whatever, she'd be like, subscribe, subscribe. Like that. And I'm like, okay, pay attention. Let's get through. Subscribe. One of my other girlfriends, she's like, okay, so today is Saturday. So Tuesday, the first one will be up on Tuesday. Is that? No, no, I'm not there yet. But that's how we kind of wound up here at Tuesday Talks with Red. And I hope, I have so much hope for what this is about to be. Even if it's just for me, if no one ever subscribes, if no one ever says anything, this is for me. This is my journey. This will be recorded for my kids to be able to have and for the legacy to live on. So I'm okay with that. So I don't get anything out of this. Monetarily, fame, fortune, none of that's coming my way. This is me doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And like I said, if absolutely nothing else comes of it, it is a video diary for my children and my grandchildren, just to see the faithfulness of God, and how that's played out in their mother and grandmother and great-grandmother's life. It will be here. But what do you get out of this? Now, I hope that you will get to where you look forward to Tuesday Talks with Red. Even if you don't get to do it on Tuesday, but you know, that's when the videos are going to be up. So I hope you get that openness. I hope you get the ability to maybe uncover and start conversations you haven't been able to have conversations about before. I hope you see just open, raw realness is okay. I think a society has pushed down so much that there are some things we just don't talk about. Well, guess what? We're flipping the script on all that. We're talking about it all. I hope that I hope this becomes two-way. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But you know, my email is listed. I hope that if you have questions or want to talk or have a story of your own or something that speaks to you, feel free to email me. So I hope this becomes two-way. If not, it's all right. But that is something that I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to put out there. So I want this to be a real and safe environment for anybody that wants to step in. Okay, I'm going to talk about some things that are tough. I'm going to talk about some things that are funny. I'm going to talk about some things that are just plain sad. I mean, there's going to be moments of just plain sad, so I'll go ahead and put that out there. Let me see. So here's just a couple I can let you know about. Trying Not to Raise Jerks. There's a fun episode. She's divorced. We'll talk about that. Friendship's harder than it looks. Gaslighting and narcissism. Suicide. It's going to be a very tough one, but it's super close to me. I have a whole 18-week series on negative Nicole, hypocritical Hilda, shameful Sarah, cussing Claire, lonely Lisa. Like there's a whole series on that. So there's a lot for us to unpack here, and I hope that you look forward to unpacking with me. So feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. I will post these over on my own personal Facebook. I'm not starting a Facebook page for it. Like I said, this is meant to be personal, but also an avenue. So I'm not going to start anything like that, but feel free to like and subscribe this channel. Hopefully I'll see you back next Tuesday, when next Tuesday's episode, we're going to dive into what I call, who does she think she is? I mean, who does she think she is? Where does she have the right to be able to talk about some of this stuff? So I'm going to kind of get into that on the next episode. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope to see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.